I want you to hit me as hard as you can.
And this is how I met Tyler Durden.
Imagine walking into a theater, expecting another blockbuster action movie, only to witness a cinematic experiment so audacious that it utterly confounds audiences. That was Fight Club in 1999, a film now heralded as one of the most iconic cult classics of all time. Yet, upon its release, it was a staggering box office disaster. With a hefty production budget of around $63 million and an opening weekend that barely scraped $11 million, Fox 2000 suffered a loss that left studio executives scratching their heads. It's almost inconceivable today, given how ingrained the film is in pop culture, that the world initially rejected it. And yet, this is where the story begins, with a failure that would eventually transform into an enduring legend. To truly understand how Fight Club came to be, we need to rewind to its origins, the dark, subversive novel by Chuck Palahniuk. Published in 1996, the book was initially a small, edgy release that captured the attention of a niche audience. Readers were enthralled by its biting critique of consumer culture, its exploration of modern alienation, and its depiction of a protagonist caught in the monotony of office life. The novel's violence and raw commentary on masculinity were jarring, and while it didn't immediately become a bestseller, it developed a cult following almost overnight. Hollywood, ever on the lookout for provocative material, quickly saw potential. Fox 2000 acquired the rights for a modest six-figure sum, and Palahniuk himself was reportedly both astonished and intrigued by how faithfully the filmmakers aimed to translate his vision to the screen. He later admitted in interviews that the movie exceeded his expectations in terms of style and impact, even suggesting, somewhat surprisingly, that it improved upon the original book. While Choke, another of his works, would eventually see adaptation, nothing approached the cultural upheaval that Fight Club would ignite. The creative team assembled to bring this story to life was nothing short of remarkable. David Fincher, fresh from the critical success of Seven and navigating the more lukewarm reception of The Game, approached the project with a mixture of boldness and precision. Known for his meticulous attention to visual detail and his fascination with the darker facets of human psychology, Fincher was the ideal director to translate Palahniuk's complex narrative into a compelling visual experience. Opposite him stood Brad Pitt and Edward Norton, two actors whose careers were at pivotal points. Pitt, with his magnetic charm and leading man appeal, had captured hearts in films like Seven and Meet Joe Black, while Norton, celebrated for his intensity in Primal Fear and American History X, brought a cerebral gravitas that balanced Pitt's exuberance. Public perception of the duo was equally contrasting. Pitt, Hollywood's golden boy and sex symbol; Norton, the cerebral, serious actor who demanded attention with every performance. Their pairing promised a dynamic that was both intriguing and unpredictable, perfectly suited for a film teetering between chaos and satire. On set, the atmosphere was electric. Fincher, Pitt, and Norton were united by a shared vision of creating something daring and socially incisive. The tone was deliberately dark, a reflection of the book's critique of materialism and modern masculinity, but also suffused with moments of absurdity that made the story both compelling and unsettling. Pitt's physical transformation, embracing the raw, almost anarchic energy of Tyler Durden, contrasted with Norton's meticulous portrayal of the narrator, a man ensnared by the monotony of consumer culture and the existential vacuum of modern life. Even Palahniuk was reportedly impressed by the fidelity of the adaptation, particularly the way Fincher amplified the book's themes through visual storytelling, using style and pacing to immerse audiences in a world that was at once familiar and disconcerting. Yet, as often happens in Hollywood, brilliance behind the camera does not guarantee audience approval. Test screenings produced polarized reactions, leaving Fox executives uncertain and uneasy. How could they market a film that was simultaneously a critique of capitalism, a violent exploration of masculinity, and a psychological puzzle? The studio's solution was miscalculated, leaning into the spectacle of fighting and chaos rather than the film's intellectual and satirical core. Trailers and posters suggested a straightforward action movie, setting up an audience that arrived expecting adrenaline and received existential commentary instead. The timing didn't help either. Fight Club opened in a crowded market alongside The Sixth Sense and American Beauty, films that were critically adored and commercially dominant. It was a perfect storm of misaligned expectations and poor strategic positioning. The opening weekend numbers reflected this misalignment. With just over $11 million earned, Fight Club was branded a flop, and studio executives quickly scaled back promotional efforts. Critical reception was equally divided. While some lauded the film's audacity, its commentary on consumerism, and its innovative narrative techniques, others denounced it as nihilistic, violent, and morally ambiguous. Roger Ebert infamously described it as fascist, highlighting the polarized response that would later become part of the film's mystique. It was a classic case of a work ahead of its time, misunderstood by both mainstream audiences and many critics upon release. Despite the immediate backlash, the seeds of a cult phenomenon were already planted. The film's distinctive style, layered narrative, and provocative themes created fertile ground for rediscovery. Audiences who encountered it on DVD and in the burgeoning internet communities of the early 2000s began to appreciate its depth and nuance. The shock value faded, revealing a narrative rich in commentary about consumerism, identity, and modern disillusionment. Pitt's charisma and Norton's intensity were suddenly appreciated in a new light, and Fincher's meticulous craftsmanship became a topic of discussion and admiration rather than criticism. The film's dialogue, particularly lines like "the first rule of Fight Club," transcended the screen to become cultural shorthand, a ritualistic chant in forums, dorm rooms, and later memes. The journey from box office bomb to cult phenomenon truly began with the home video release. DVDs and VHS copies of Fight Club spread through college dorms, apartments, and early internet communities, and suddenly the film found an audience that the theaters had failed to reach. People weren't just watching it, they were dissecting it, debating its meaning, quoting its lines, and sharing it among friends who would get the reference. What initially appeared to be an unmarketable, niche project became a cultural touchstone, with a following that was passionate, vocal, and deeply engaged. It's here that we see the first glimmers of the film's legendary status, a movie once considered a financial disaster, now thriving in the underground circuits of fandom. It wasn't just DVDs and word of mouth that fueled Fight Club's rise. It also coincided with the golden age of peer-to-peer file sharing. The 2000s were the very best years of online piracy, and in underground distribution channels like peer-to-peer sharing, Fight Club found a perfect home there. The film's anti-establishment, anti-consumerism ethos mirrored the way it was being circulated. Outside official channels, shared among peers, discovered rather than marketed. Fans who were willing to seek it out online felt a sense of ownership and exclusivity, almost living the Tyler Durden philosophy themselves. This unofficial, decentralized spread amplified the movie's cultural reach, helping it find the very audience that would transform a box office failure into a defining cult classic.
So why did Fight Club resonate so deeply with audiences? And why has it remained relevant over 2 decades later? One key factor is its unflinching exploration of alienation in modern society. The narrator's life, an endless cycle of corporate drudgery, IKEA furniture, and a hollow pursuit of material success, struck a nerve with viewers, especially younger adults navigating their own existential crises. In an era when consumerism promised fulfillment but delivered monotony, Tyler Durden's radical philosophy offered a form of liberation, even if it was morally complex and violent. As CBR notes, the film's critique of capitalism and societal expectations wasn't just topical in 1999. It continues to resonate in today's hyper-connected, social media-driven world where curated images of success often mask internal emptiness.
Closely tied to this is the film's treatment of masculinity and identity. At its core, Fight Club is about men wrestling with the meaning of their existence in a world that seems to have little room for their individuality. The Fight Club itself becomes a metaphorical space where repressed frustrations are expressed, bonds are forged, and personal boundaries are tested. For audiences, particularly those feeling stifled by societal norms or disillusioned by a consumer-driven identity, this struck a deeply emotional chord. The Guardian emphasizes that this exploration of selfhood and rebellion against conformity is one of the reasons the film has aged so gracefully. Its themes transcend a specific era, allowing new generations to find their own meaning within the narrative.
The film's narrative and stylistic sophistication also contribute to its cult status. Its unreliable narrator, intricate editing, and visual flair invite repeated viewings and in-depth analysis. Every viewing offers a chance to catch Easter eggs, foreshadowing, and subtle cues that enrich the story. Unlike films designed purely for mass appeal, Fight Club rewards curiosity and critical engagement. Viewers aren't just entertained, they are challenged to think, question, and even debate morality, identity, and societal norms. This layered approach naturally encourages discussion and a sense of community among fans, another hallmark of cult films.
Timing, too, played a critical role in its ascent. Released in a period dominated by more conventional narratives, the film was initially overlooked by mainstream audiences. Yet the rise of DVD culture, peer-to-peer sharing, college discussions, and online forums created the perfect ecosystem for Fight Club to thrive outside traditional distribution channels. Fans discovered it as a hidden gem, often bonding over shared appreciation for its subversive humor, shocking violence, and philosophical undercurrents. What was once misunderstood became celebrated precisely because it was discovered and championed by those who were willing to look deeper.
Even now, the movie retains a freshness and relevance that is rare for films over 2 decades old. Its critique of identity, consumerism, and societal pressure remains strikingly modern. The dialogue, visual style, and performances feel contemporary, almost prescient in how they reflect the anxieties and disillusionments of modern life. As The Guardian observes, the film's prescient depiction of cultural dissatisfaction, alienation, and performative masculinity ensures that each generation finds something new to relate to, keeping it vibrant and relevant.
If you made it this far, firstly, thank you for sticking around. I really appreciate it that you took the time to listen to my ramblings. If you want, you can leave a like or consider subscribing. It really helps out the channel. And also comment below when you first watched Fight Club and how you felt after watching it the first time.
Finally, the communal aspect of Fight Club's cult status cannot be overstated. Quotes like, "The first rule of Fight Club," became part of the lexicon, repeated and reinterpreted across generations. It wasn't just a film, it was a shared cultural experience, a collective touchstone that fans could reference, debate, and embrace. The movie became more than entertainment. It became a language, a symbol of rebellion, and a mirror reflecting societal truths that mainstream cinema often ignored.